When was the last time you told a lie? What was the reason behind it? In animals, just as in humans, individuals sometimes benefit from producing false signals. In this video, we'll be exploring in more detail the concept of honesty in animal communication. When should we expect animal signals to be honest? How is honesty maintained? And when can animals get away with lying? First, we need to clear up a potential misconception. In humans, the word honest carries connotations of intent. An honest person is one who means to convey truthful or reliable information. Although some animals might understand whether their signals are in fact true, this is not what we mean when we talk about an animal signal being honest. When discussing animal communication, an honest signal simply means one that benefits both the signaler and the receiver, such as the bright coloration of a poisoned dart frog. The frog is signaling to potential predators that it's poisonous and therefore not a valuable prey item. The frog benefits from this signal by not being eaten, and its predators benefit because they want to avoid ingesting a toxic meal. In contrast, a dishonest signal is one that benefits the signaler but is detrimental to the receiver. To use a similar example, a hoverfly's bright yellow and black stripes deter predators in the same way as the frog's colours, because it's also signalling defences against predation. In reality, the hoverfly possesses no such defences, and thus the predator loses the meal if it believes the signal. Whether we expect a certain signal to be honest or dishonest will depend partly on whether the signaler and receiver have an evolutionary conflict of interest. Between kin, or when individuals collaborate on predator defence, individual interests will usually align and we should expect honest signals. However, when individuals are competing with each other, or between predators and prey, the signaler and receiver clearly want different things. Over evolutionary time, receivers are selected to ignore dishonest signals, only paying attention to those that, at least sometimes, provide them with useful information. This leads to a co-evolutionary arms race between signalers selected to produce deceptive signals and receivers selected for better discrimination. Signals are often costly to perform or maintain, so signalers must be able to successfully deceive receivers, or the signal is not worth producing. As a result, dishonest communication will usually involve exploiting a system of reliable communication and can never become too common. To return to the hoverfly example, hoverflies are exploiting the yellow and black stripes mean danger signal that is maintained by the honest signals of bees and wasps. This is getting a little abstract, so let's look at another example in detail. One common type of dishonest signalling is false alarm calling, in which individuals signal the presence of a predator when there's no actual danger. In taupe antelope, males defend breeding territories, which females move freely between selecting mates. Researchers noticed that males often gave alarm calls when females visited their territory, despite no apparent predators being nearby. They decided to test whether these were dishonest signals using standardized behavioral observations of 73 females, recording the location of males and females when alarm calls were made, and whether any predators were present. The results were that males were especially likely to alarm call from the edge of their territory, driving the female back towards the center. This increases the amount of time a female spends in the male territory, and hence the opportunities he has to mate with her. The question that immediately springs to mind here is, why don't females evolve better discrimination of false alarm calls? There are probably two reasons why. Firstly, the males can relatively easily produce a false signal that is nearly identical to the true signal, making discrimination very difficult. The second is that the cost to the female of believing the signal is mating with a subpar male, but ignoring an alarm call when a predator is present could mean death. Despite the possibility for dishonest communication, there are several reasons why we should expect most signals to be honest. In fact, we can divide signals into several types based on how honesty is guaranteed. First, we have those signals in which the conflict of interest is minimal. If deception is strictly worse for signalers than honesty, they have no reason to lie, and receivers should believe their signals. Second, we have so-called index signals. These are signals that simply cannot be faked. For example, in frogs, females often produce more offspring when mating with larger males. Deep croaks can only be produced by large males because body size directly affects the acoustic characteristics of calls. Hence, females can be confident that a male frog with a deep croak is honestly signaling his size. Third, we have handicap signals. All individuals can produce a handicap signal, but these signals impose higher costs on deceitful signalers. For example, a male widowbird's tail hinders flight and movement in general, but makes him more attractive by signaling that he is high enough quality to survive despite the handicap. Lower quality males might be able to grow an equally large tail, but would suffer such high costs they'd gain no benefit from their dishonesty. Fourth, signals that are easy to fake can still maintain honesty if receivers can regularly verify the accuracy of the signal and punish deceitful signalers. These are sometimes referred to as conventional signals because they depend on a convention about what a certain signal means. These sorts of signals work best when signalers can be easily identified and when the same individuals regularly interact with each other. In summary, animal signals are usually honest, especially when there is no conflict of interest between a signaler and a receiver. Even when there is an incentive for deception, honesty can be maintained through several different mechanisms. Dishonest signals can only persist by exploiting a usually reliable communication system, so it can never become too common or receivers will stop paying attention. Maybe bear that in mind the next time you tell a lie.